Hello there. My name is Kurt Love. It's very nice to meet you all. Um, this is a PLC series on thriving pedagogy. And I know this is a bit of a new concept for a lot of folks, but I think it's something that we all are aiming towards as we're doing the really good work of teaching and thinking and rethinking about teaching, especially in this time frame, right? So, uh, I've put together a very in-depth series of 60 plus videos that are going to very carefully and very pointedly walk through what a thriving pedagogy is. So, this is just the introduction to all of that, and I thank you for being here. And I think if you're able to do this kind of work and stick with this PLC series and take the time that you need, this is very deep, nutritious work that will be good for the whole district, certainly the whole school, and definitely at the classroom level. This is, I think, in many ways, I feel really good about this kind of work, and I feel like this is gonna make a difference. So, let me tell you a little bit about me, right? So, who's this crazy guy? Um, so, my name's Kurt Love, and I grew up in Shelton, Connecticut. I got my undergraduate and master's from the University of Connecticut, and I became a middle school science teacher. But before that, I student taught at Coventry High School. I student taught biology there, and which is a rural setting if you're not familiar with it. Um, Graduated, and I taught middle school science at Cheshire, which was more of a suburban, more upper middle class to affluent town. I taught in West Hartford, a bit more of a mixed town. It has certainly a wide range of socioeconomics and classes and racial diversity there. And then I taught in Hartford, which has a lot of chronic stress in a town, but amazing, wonderful people who are I learned a lot from. So yeah, I've taught in a wide diversity of towns as a high school student teacher, and then a middle school teacher after that. And then I went and got my degree at the University of Connecticut, went back there and got that degree in 2008 with focus in curriculum instruction. And, beyond that, so I focused on science education, but beyond that, I really focused on social justice, environmental justice, feminism, uh, and, have been doing a lot of that work really since then. At the time, I also was an intern uh, with the Connecticut Science Center, and I did a lot of analysis of the exhibits that were going to be going into the Science Center. I was there while it was being built. So I was there, excuse me, during a lot of the development of the place, right? And I also worked as an adjunct at Fordham University in New York City, at the Graduate Center. I taught at Connecticut College for a year. I taught at University of St. Joseph, did a few courses there, and I also taught at Mitchell College in Connecticut. And then I graduated, and like I said, in 2008, and I've been a professor at Central Connecticut State University ever since. Uh, and I've taught, I think, something like, I don't know, like 18 courses or something like that. I've lost track. But you can see the wide diversity, no pun intended, of the topics that I've taught there: diversity, philosophy, history, policy, curriculum theory, teaching methods, learning theories, sustainability. It's partial, I think. But anyway, those are the big topics. During the time, I've also been a director of curriculum in a really small, very forward thinking, experimental kind of school called the Sustainable Farm School. Um, and learned a lot about really rethinking school as a whole during that project. I've also been the president of the New England Philosophy of Education Society, a co founder of Aina, which is where this PLC series is coming from. I live in Ashford with my wife, who's also a teacher. She's a TESOL teacher in Massachusetts. And we have a very small but growing homestead in Ashford, very, very, very rural town. And I'm a dad to 5 kids, a dad and a stepdad, and we have one on the way. Yay! And last but not least, just some fun things. I'm a drummer. I'm a disc golfer, something new that I picked up in the last year or so, and a Star Wars fan. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm just a little snapshot, and I think it gives you a little more of where I'm coming from and why I'm focusing on this concept of thriving. But let me sort of go over to the Aina stuff for a second, because it may be something that you're just coming across as you're seeing the PLC. Like, what's Aina, right? It's a company that I founded to start to do work with districts on this concept of thriving, having thriving curriculum and instruction. But in the meantime, this last year or so, we've developed, or I should say created, free curriculum, free lesson plans that are on the website. Anybody can download, completely free. Just go there, click download. You can see a lot of the kind of work that I'm talking about through these lessons. Now, please keep in mind that these lessons were written really specifically for parents, right? So people who may not be professional educators. So they were written in a way to really support people who want to teach their kids and want to do all the kind of good work they can at home, especially during the pandemic, but perhaps homeschooling as well. And they're written in a way that you don't have to be a professional educator to understand how to teach it, right? So just something to keep in mind. Obviously, professional educators can take these lessons and modify them however they want to, okay? But at the very least, as we go through the PLC series, you will see by looking at these lessons, and there's 48 of them, okay? So if you just click on free lessons there, or at least you'll see the drop-down menu, well-being lessons, sustainability lessons, and thriving lessons. So there's 48 lessons there. I think that's what the last count was. Anyway, and you are free to look at, download, but use them as examples of the kind of teaching that we're talking about here, okay? Again, keeping in mind that they're not written specifically for teachers. They're written a bit more broadly with a little more support in mind here, okay? Again, everything is free. Now, the PLC itself is free, and I wanted to, I'm going to go that in a second. So as Aina, what we do is we are trying to provide, as we do things that we're sort of paid for, we're also trying to do things that are free, just general supports that anybody can have access to as well. So it's part of our mission to have things that are just sort of open that people can have, and also selling curriculum to districts, for instance. And the kind of curriculum that districts can use is written a bit more in-depth and a bit more broad across disciplines. They're interdisciplinary, and obviously they're written for teachers in mind. And that's K through 12 as well. The free lessons that are up there are K through 12 too. You'll see we have them arranged by ages and grades and all that, but we write curriculum that is K through 12. Okay? So that's just a little teeny tiny bit. If you're interested, go to the website, and then please contact me, because we would love to work with you a bit more. One of the main ways that I can say is the curriculum itself is, if you're at a secondary level, if you're doing things like advisory periods, this kind of work I think is really appropriate for advisory periods. That's more or less what we're writing it towards. And at elementary, it's more sort of the morning meeting kind of time period. And the lessons are they require anywhere between half an hour to an hour or so each week. And it's, again, there for support, but very modifiable for teachers and schools to do what they will with them, right? You don't have to, you do what works for you, right? But we know that the initial ideas are sometimes the more difficult aspect of all of this, is just coming up with it. So we have a ton of stuff there, and please contact me because I'd love to work with districts and have more of that formal curriculum out there too. Okay, but for the PLC, back to that. This is wide open. All anybody can access it. We have it on YouTube. We have it on our website, and I'm creating slideshows to go along with everything that you have access to as well. Just using Google Slides for that. So everything is open source here. Okay, so PLC on Thriving Pedagogy. Well, this initial video is really just about some of the core aspects that you'll see that are kind of the highlights, or the more important parts, the things that we keep going to that are the core of the work that we're going to do here through all of these videos. Okay. So, starting with this artwork. This is artwork by Jessica Pearlstein. She did an amazing job of giving us a vision, a visual of what thriving might look like. Okay. I use this artwork a lot in my teaching, and I'm going to use it just a lot in the PLC itself. So you'll see it, right? But it's important for us to have that visual. I think it speaks volumes just by looking at it. So, just very quickly, you can see what thriving might look like when we talk about things environmentally, of course, or how we talk about things socially. You get real interesting tidbits of what that looks like here, right? Not everything. It's not completely exhaustive, but it's inspiring for the kind of thinking that we want to do. Okay, and you can also see this sort of individual well-being piece there too. Okay, so more on that some other point in time, but this is a really helpful starting place and reference point for when we're talking about thriving. So we also need a framework. So here's the very core, hopefully concise. I wouldn't call it simple, but here's what we're talking about, right? The 3-part framework: well-being, sustainability, which we're going to do more complexly, I think, than the way sustainability is often talked about. And then the thriving. What do we even mean by thriving communities here? Thriving is going to be that combination of well-being and sustainability, and democratic participation. So there's the basic framework: well-being, sustainability, and then thriving community. Again, lots more on that, but that's something that you'll see as well. So going from the visual to then trying to put it in words in a somewhat concise way, and then taking that framework. We always need a framework that we keep going back to. And that framework, by the way, that framework can be applied not just to education, right? It's a very general framework that's not specifically written towards education, because so many parts of our society need that kind of framework and can really benefit from that kind of framework as well. So it's not just for education, but when we do apply it to education, what would the pedagogy look like with that framework in mind? And so this is a graphic that's going to come up quite a bit too. Obviously, I'm not going to explain any of it right now. You can feel free to look through it, but you see how things are being broken down. It starts with planning, and then it's instruction, and then it's assessment. And you see the major parts, there's 5, sort of that middle column there. And then each one of those has 3 things that are, it's sort of an attempt to encompass of what it all means. Lots and lots to come. But this is the basic sort of secondary framework, if you will, using pedagogy, or applying the larger framing of theory, or the larger framing of thriving, or the theory of thriving, and applying that to the pedagogy, the construction of pedagogy that we oftentimes use as teachers, right? Planning, instruction, and assessment. Okay. So, those are just some initial highlights. The overall structure of PLC sessions are really going to be the same. And keep it very consistent as we go through each session. There's going to be a video, and the video is intended to be viewed by all people that are within the PLC itself, not just the PLC leader. if you have that kind of structure. It really is for everybody, so please, right, use them, watch them, and make sure that everybody. It's going to be a basis for explanations and explorations, and it's going to be really difficult, I think, to be somebody in a PLC trying to do this kind of work if you haven't seen the videos themselves. Okay, so what I've done is said, hey, look, right, we want to make these things free. We want to provide support, all with good intentions. I'm not necessarily putting a book together on this. I'm not putting together something that we have to pay for, right? I don't want money to be an issue here. I want a thriving society. That's really what it comes down to. So the video is the starting place, okay? The videos are going to be very pointed at a certain topic, and with the intention of them, being a reasonable amount of time. I don't want to make any promises that they're all going to be super short, but being very, very focused on a specific topic. The slideshow that I'm using within the video, that'll also always be available, so that you can go to that and have that. I'm just using Google Slides, so I'll provide the link for that. And every PLC session will have a set of prompts for discussion. Small group discussion, large group discussion. It's entirely up to you how you want to structure that. And again, suggested. Use them, change them, don't use them. It's entirely up to you. And the same thing for sort of applying. There needs to be an application of what's going on in the video. We need to apply it to something, right? So there's this application activity. The activity is, again, also up to you. This may be something that you have time for, may not have time for. Anyway, your decision for sure. But just know that every PLC is coming with that kind of structure. So, to that end, here are the prompts for discussion for this PLC. You thought you were getting away, you're going to get a freebie. Nope. Starting right off, okay? All right, so the first prompt is, what are your initial thoughts in response to this video? So give some time, right, to really think about that, and maybe talk about it, maybe you write about it. However you want to do that is fine. Probably need to do it as like a think, pair, share kind of thing. If you think about your or a curriculum, because maybe you're an administrator or support in another capacity, and maybe it's not specifically a curriculum that you are directly teaching. Anyway, if you think about your curriculum or a curriculum, to what extent do you think that it is aimed at teaching towards thriving? Don't worry, I will fix that little typo there. Don't overthink this one right now. See, this is all. This is just some guy doing it for you, right? Anyway, don't overthink this one right now. Just focus on some initial thoughts that come up immediately. So we're going to obviously get into this a lot, but do some thinking around the curriculum and say to yourself, to what extent is this really aimed at creating thriving? And that's contingent upon a lot of things. What do you even think thriving is, right? So anyway, there's that. And then, you don't necessarily have to use the framework that's there right now in this PLC session, but you certainly can, right? It might be a good place to start. But maybe you just want to talk about thriving as the way you're thinking about it right now. Anyway, if this is number 3, if you think about your school or your district or town, city, taking each of them separately, to what extent do you think that they promote thriving? So you can have discussion around that too. Okay. And then set up an electronic space. So first thing I would highly recommend is that you use something like a Google Drive or a OneDrive or something that you can all have access to. And I know it's a little bit of an undertaking to set these sort of things up sometimes, but again, I'm giving you some structure here. If you look towards the end, you might want to organize them by the way that I have things organized. You have a major category, right? So right now we're in the first major category, which is the Thriving Planning category. Again, based on the, here, I'll go back for a second. Based on this structure, that's how I'm going to organize things, okay? The Thriving Planning is in this case, the major category. The issues of thriving is the subcategory. And then the blue arrows, don't focus on that too much, because the way that I'm going to do the PLCs is they're all going to connect with what the blue arrows are, but I'm going to have things broken down even more than what the blue arrows do. So just follow what the name of the video is, and you'll see that at the beginning of the video as well as the beginning of the slideshow. So the name of the PLC is what I mean. So you have the major category, thriving, planning. Issues of thriving is the subcategory. And then for this one, it's teaching towards thriving. That's the name of this PLC session. And you can name the document the same title as the PLC, right? So you have folder 1, subfolder, and then in that subfolder you can use the title of the PLC for anything that you're doing, the sort of shared work and ideas that you're doing there, okay? All right, in addition to brief discussions about your thoughts to the discussion prompts, right? So you hopefully had that time where you did some think, pair, sharing, or however you structured it. Now take a look. What patterns come up among your colleagues during those discussions? So identifying the patterns is really important here. And this is where you can use today's shared document to put that kind of information there, right? This is, call it what you will. You want to call it a pretest, right? You want to call it prior knowledge, whatever. We're doing a bit of constructivism at the moment. So it's good to keep track of what we think those patterns are. Struggles, challenges, things that we're inspired by, whatever comes up, right? Keep track of them and try to put them into patterns. See what that looks like. And then record them in the document. And last but not least here is in a whole group setting, if practical. I'm not sure what your size of the group is, or in smaller groups, but keeping them to at least 10 people if possible. I want you to do this, and don't skip it. I think you'll be surprised at how it turns out. Okay. Discuss with each other what each person thinks that they contribute, what their contributions are. So the larger professional community, so school or the district. Or if you're really daring, and I really encourage you to do this one, discuss what you think another person contributes to the community without talking about yourself. And if you're going to do that one, don't do the first version that I gave you at all. Okay? If you want to add that on at the end, you're welcome to, of course. But I think it's really interesting for a lot of good reasons to talk about this way with each other. Talk about each other in this way. Okay? And I think I've done this kind of work before, and it's I love it. I kind of love it. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of awesome. Okay? Anyway, so have a good experience with that. And with that, I will leave you with the end of this PLC session. Thanks for the time, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.